Elephant Man Podcast Network, grown man conversations dealing with elephants in the room. What's going on? It's your man DB. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell so you can know when new material is coming out. Shalom, shalom, salute, shalom to everybody in the building, far and abroad. We thank y'all for tuning in. And the thing I like about recording is it's the playback later. So I don't get into, a big thing. Oh, I missed this part. I missed the beginning. I missed the end. Look, you can always tune in later on and check it out. Right now, it's part 2, the Scramble, the new Scramble for Africa. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But if you haven't seen part 1, we did part 1 yesterday, the Scramble for Africa, part 1 with King Leopold, and a lot of different countries came together and figured out how they're going to chop up and divide Africa up, because Africa got a lot of resources, and I didn't know it. As I study more and more, Africa is one of the I ain't gonna say one of, it is the richest continent on the planet. It has cobalt, it has rare minerals that they put in cell phones, only mined from Africa, diamonds, special silver, gold. I mean, they got so much things going on in Africa, man. Very, very seriously, right? And so if the natives of the country of Africa could mine their own resources and sell their own resources that's in their feet, right underneath their feet, is a wealth. Right in their mountains is a wealth. They can be able to sustain their own. They'll be able to make their own schools and dig their own wells for fresh water. They'll be able to make their own hospitals, and they wouldn't be a third world country if they can own their resources. But the problem is somebody else own their resources, right? And so we're going to just talk about that. So make sure if you didn't check that out, the Scramble for Africa part 1. Also, the dangling carrot, true cost of free money, right? It's nothing free. So I want you to check that out too. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Also, who is the God of this world? Special guest panel, my brother, Big Red, Second Exodus, and Rohan Rugram. I hope I said the last part right? So if you ain't subscribed already, I don't know why you haven't subscribed. See, my man's right here like, why you ain't subscribed yet? All right. Also, vitamin D deficiency, mental health, and melanated people, right? Mental health and melanated people. So I want to go right into this. I was studying and reading this stuff, man. There's a lot going on in Africa. And so last time we talked yesterday, we were talking about the Scramble for Africa. And that happened in 1884 to 1885. They sit and had a meeting about how they can divvy up or cut up the African cake. That's what they called it, the African cake, because there's just so many different resources in there. All right. So I want to share my screen and go right into it. Part 2, Scramble for Africa, right? It's not, all right, let's go right into it. You see this picture right here. It's a picture tells 1,000 words, right? There's only left a few coins left on the continent of Africa. And you see who's stacking up and getting all of the wealth. What's mine is mine, what's yours is mine. That's the golden rule. He who has the gold rule, all right? All right, this is the first Scramble for Africa, 1885 to 1914. And the powers were British, France, Germany, Portugal, Italy, Belgium, Spain, and some independents with the Abyssinia right here, independent area. I think they had a war and they fought, so they kind of fought off a lot of the conquest and the colonization going on. But everywhere you see it's color-coded. If you want this map, let me know. I'll send it to you. If you're a history buff, anything like that, I'll send it to you. So British is red, French is green, German is brown, so on and so forth. All right. This is the new map for today. 11 foreign military bases in the Horn of Africa. 11 foreign military bases. 13 countries with known presence in Africa. 34 U.S. known posts across northern, western, and the Horn regions of Africa. So they got the flags here. Belgium, Italy, China, Japan, man, everybody. Why does everybody want to go back to get the resources in Africa? Because Africa got a lot of wealth and resources there. All right. New scramble for Africa. For centuries, beginning with the slave trade, the West has ruthlessly explored the African continent. But the abduction and enslavement of millions of Africans was only the start. In the late 19th century, it became known as the Scramble for Africa, what we talked about yesterday. The continent was arbitrarily cut up into colonies by the leading European powers of that time, right? Which violently subjugated the people and plundered the continent of its rich natural resources. In the post-independent era, African states become weak pawns in the world economy, subject to Cold War rivalries, their paths to development largely blocked by the debilitating colonist past. So it's still considered in some parts of Africa third world countries, right? It really hurt them that they can't mine their own resources, their own lumber and oil and different things like that. More recently, the West has choked Africa with one debt regime, forcing many nations to pay more in interest on debts to the World Bank and International Monetary Fund, or IMF, than on healthcare, education, infrastructure, and other vital services combined. Okay? The legacy of Western domination has left Africa devastated with crippling rates of poverty, hunger, and disease. So they went in and they had this one thing called the white man's burden, and it was like, we want to go into these nations and help them and make them better and different things, but it left them, like I say, crippling rates of poverty, hunger, and disease. But what that does is that make you dependent on someone else, right? That's the same model that's used to make you dependent upon someone else. All right. The continent today has a gross national per capita of 820, below that of the 50s and the 60s in most African countries, and the average life expectancy of only 50 years. 62% of Africans have no access to standard sanitation facilities, and 2/3 of the total world population suffer from HIV and AIDS. Well, I'm going to check different sources to see if that number right. 2/3? Really? 2/3 of the population suffer from AIDS? That's 2 in every 3. It remains a continent abundant in human and natural resources, but they managed to enrich only a handful of African rulers and foreign capitalists. So it's still got a lot of resources there. Still a lot of diamonds, still a lot of gold, still a lot of cobalt, uranium, and different things like that. But they don't own it. They don't own the machines to get it out of the ground. They don't have the trading posts and the trading stations to set it up. They don't have those different things going on with that. All right. Why is buffering slow? Can't hear anything. Why is it buffering slow? I don't know. Hopefully you guys can hear me, because I don't want to be going on and you can't hear me. All right. Okay, U.S., China, and Russia are the new superpowers. Hopefully they can be able to hear me. Can you hear me? Type of 1 if you can hear me. Type of 1 if you can hear me. All right. Okay. I'm going to keep going on and fake it. Hopefully this mic is working. Now I got to try something else and re-record it another time if it don't work. The world's most powerful nations are once again competing for control of the abundant natural resources in Africa, on the African continent. Some analysis describe this phenomenon as the new scramble for Africa, in reference to the first scramble for Africa. Okay, and powerful European nations. It resulted in powerful European nations dividing, occupying, and colonizing the continent. Now they use the same pattern. Superpowers like U.S., China, and Russia, as well as some key European countries and less powerful nations like Japan, India, Brazil are currently active in Africa. Foreign military presence is also growing on the continent under the guise of counterterrorism effort. Right, same playbook. People be thinking, man, people be changing and they've been benevolent and all that. No. Same playbook, same everything. Still kill and destroy. Amen. Counterterrorism, right? You think about the different counterterrorism over here, right? They're working on domestic terrorism right now to work on censorship, but they had the war on drugs, they got the war on terror, they got the war on poverty, they got the war on Operation Warp Speed, the war on the coast. It's always a war mentality, right? All right. French military base. The French military base in Djibouti is hosting troops from Germany and Spain. The U.S. has been increasingly involved in the fight against terror groups in the Sahel, right? That's their excuse for coming over here and stuff. At that moment, Africa does not have a serious unified strategy or an institutional capacity to effectively respond to this so-called new scramble, right? Just like last time, they had this meeting in Belgium. They had this meeting, and none of the African countries were invited to this meeting, right? They came and met for a whole year, and nobody was none of the African continent, none of the people from the African continent was invited to this meeting. Same thing, almost right here. So here's French military base in Djibouti, right? French presence in there. The new scramble for Africa centers chiefly on oil, the world's most important strategic resource. The United States, the largest global economic and military power, consumes a quarter of the world's oil, but possesses only 3% of the world's proven oil reserves. West Africa alone sits atop 15% of the world's oil. Wow. There is intensifying global competition for control of oil and gas production and supply. Worldwide, the new generation of mainly state-owned companies such as China, Saudi Arabia, Russia, Venezuela, and Iran now control 1/3 of the world's oil and gas reserve and production. And if you think about it, these are a lot of the different countries that be in the news that we've been going back and forth with. Not too long ago, we went into it with Venezuela, right? They get into it with Iran, Saudi Arabia, right? So that's pretty interesting that all of a sudden other people in other countries get demonized. So I'm about to read into that. That's very, very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, while the major Western companies, ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, and Royal Dutch Shell control just 1/10 and the only 3% of the reserves. Wow. You might think on a track record of this kind would lead to some self-reflection on the part of the Western powers regarding their violent history in Africa, but you would be wrong. So you would think that people would look back and say, man, we did them a disservice. We went in, come in and try to save the day. And, we brought vaccines when they had Ebola. We built these different things, but it's for self-interest and not for the people interest, right? When you're going in, even the missionaries went in there, right? Use the Bible out of context. And it was for the interest, like I said in the last show, it was for the interest of that continent. So it's not for the kingdom's sake, right? The Shemayim, it's for their own personal kingdoms that they was building here on earth. So you'll think that they'll be like, man, that was pretty jacked up in 1884. Man, you know what? We got to reflect. They didn't. This new scramble is a fight between major competing powers for control of new energy sources and profits at a time when they control fewer sources themselves, right? The race is all the more important given the conflicts and tension in other rich areas such as Iraq, Iran, Venezuela. That's very interesting. We had problems with all three of them at one time. Well, we got a better, I'm talking about the United States, got a better hold of Iraq because they wiped out Saddam Hussein, in his war on terror and brought their democracy. Pretty much, when they say democracy, they got code words now, bringing a democracy. It's pretty much a new colonization, in my opinion, right? Because you bring in your thought, your way of doing things, and then you get a lion's share of the business and the different things that's going on. All right. British Prime Minister Gordon Brown, he was a prime minister back in the day, right? And this is what he said. He had about imperialism back in the day. The days of Britain having to apologize for its colonial histories are over, he said. during a tour to Africa. We should celebrate much of our past rather than apologizing for it. Man, that's pretty bold, right? That's pretty tough right there. Like, we're not apologizing for how we did in the past, right? Spirits die. What it said? People die, spirits don't, and their assignments never change. People die, spirits don't, and their assignments never change. So the spirit of oppression, all these different spirits, they're still here in the earth. So when guys die off, that spirit just enters into the next generation, right? Unless they have a repentant spirit and a repentant heart, right? China, the new dominant foreign power in Africa. As the world's second largest economy, China has become Africa's most important and influential development and trade partner over the past 2 decades. China has no colonial past in Africa. In fact, like Russia, it supported Africa's liberation struggle in the mid-20th century. So this is why a lot of the African countries trust China, right? Because they ain't had no part in the past looting and colonization. So they're going over there, they're building, man, not only bases, but high rises, streets, malls, you name it. They are building it, right? China's clean history in Africa makes it easier for the country to extend its influence in the region. A new scramble for Africa marks the beginning of the latest chapter in the plunder of the continents. The United States and Europe, but also rising powers like China, seek to consolidate their grip on Africa's oil, its minerals, and other resources. They got a lot of lumber there too. Rubber, a lot of stuff. All worth more every day because of the massive boom in the prices of oil and raw material. So they got a lot of, the massive boom in the prices. We got to be able to get it, right? Like the earlier scramble for Africa, the new scramble for Africa is not only about profits, but also about control of strategic resources, chiefly oil. It's about control. It's not about helping the folk. It's about control. I'm sorry to tell you that. China, the new dominant foreign power in Africa. Nevertheless, China's activities in Africa are under harsh criticism. For instance, the head of the United States National Trade Council, Peter Navarro, accused China of locking down strategic natural resources, locking up emerging markets, and locking out the United States. So pretty much China came in there and they just pretty much locked it down, like pushing them out. So that's probably why, it's a lot going on right now. Others criticize China for pushing in a new form of colonism and mass resource grab. Oh, look at the pot calling the kettle black, right? All right. So in 2007 meeting African Development Bank hosted in Shanghai, China pledged $20 billion in infrastructure, $20 billion in buildings and infrastructures, and trade financing over the next 3 years with the chunk of amount intended electricity, roads, and other infrastructure. Hey, they getting paid. So if you got a war-torn country, a third world country, a crippled country that was hurting because of the first plunder, as China come in, they ain't got no history of doing none of that in the past. They say, man, we're gonna come in and help you. You know what I mean? You're gonna extend the olive branch, like, bet, come on in. But but it's control though. They're gonna have control of the lion's share of the wealth and the resources and the different things in Africa. All right. China's influence on the continent started to increase rapidly in 2000 after the establishment of the FOCAC, Forum of China-African Cooperation, right? In 2015, China pledged to invest a further $60 billion in Africa to cover major collaborative projects on industrialization, agriculture, modernization, infrastructure, finance, green development, trade and investment, poverty reduction, public welfare, public health, and peace and security. Now, you might say, man, that's pretty decent. You know what I mean? They're coming coming to help, but they're going to control it. All right. So this them making deals. They went to certain African countries because even though sometimes we look at Africa as a whole country, but it's a continent with different countries in there. Like United States, we're in North America, and so all them little states are together. So sometimes we might think, oh, Africa, okay, but Zimbabwe might be doing something different than Ghana, than Ethiopia, than Kenya. They all got their own different thing. But one thing I can't say about the European Union, they stick together, right? France, Belgium, all of them stick together. They be skirmishing here and there because they want to see who's going to be on top. But for the most part, JFIT stick together. I can't even cap. They stick together. All right? Then they started the African Union, the AU, right, in 2016, okay, to introduce ambitious strategic frameworks called Agenda 2063. Under the leadership of Kazana Delami Zuma, I hope I ain't tearing it up, and the former chairperson of the AU Commission, but this agenda does not include a clear and coherent strategy on increasing foreign presence and competition in Africa. So I say that to say they started an African Union with all of the continents. But what did it say? Underline say, this agenda does not include a clear and coherent strategy of increasing foreign presence. Remember, I told you, everybody got a military base. China, Russia, France, US. Everybody got military bases. Everybody scrambling for the gold and the resources, right? So that foreign pressure coming in now is they don't have a strong unit. They're not a strong unified front when it comes to that. All right, so that's gonna hurt them in a minute. But what I want to do, I want to show this little video because it's going to it's only a small video, but I want to share this video because it explains everything. Share the audio. It's real quick. Right. All right. So check this out. It's only a 7-minute video.
We'll talk about Africa, once seen by Europe as the antithesis of civilization, the heart of darkness, in the words of a certain Joseph Conrad. Centuries later, Africa remains ignored. It makes news for its conflicts, poverty, and exoticism. For the longest time, the world saw it as a lost cause. Then one country saw opportunity, and thus began a new race for Africa, not very different from the scramble of the 19th century, when colonial Britain and France wanted raw materials, slaves, and geopolitical influence. Now, in the 21st century, global powers are in more or less the same race. China, the United States, India, the European Union, Japan, Israel, Canada, all of these countries are in the race for Africa. And one country is emerging as the clear winner. Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay, and this is Africa, a continent of 54 sovereign states, 17% of the world's population, 9.6% of the global oil output, 90% of the world's platinum supply, 90% of the world's cobalt supply, half of the world's gold supply, 2/3 of the world's manganese, 35% of the world's uranium, 75% of the world's coltan, and 54 votes in the United Nations General Assembly. This is what makes Africa so attractive and makes the continent a battleground for global powers. There are numerous fronts: investment and infrastructure, military power, diplomacy, soft power, trade, geopolitics. Every country has its own interest in Africa. In 2016, Israel began its scramble for the continent. Benjamin Netanyahu became the first Israeli prime minister to visit Africa in 50 years. What did he want? Votes in favor of Israel and against Palestine in the United Nations resolutions. Africa and Israel share similar histories, he said. Israel went on to sponsor solar, water, and agricultural technologies. In the same year, 2016, Senegal co-sponsored a UN resolution. It condemned the construction of illegal Jewish settlements in the West Bank. What did Israel do? It canceled the Mashav drip irrigation project. And this is just one example. Here's another one. The European Union has pledged more than $54 billion in sustainable investment for Africa. What does the EU want? Access to the African market of 1.3 billion people. Brussels has negotiated free trade agreements with at least 40 African countries. But does this ensure a balanced two-way trade? It doesn't. And no country has a bigger interest in Africa than China. China is funding 1 in 5 infrastructure projects in Africa. It is building every third one. Africa has an infrastructure deficit, and China has a signed checkbook. Starting 2005, China has invested at least $2 trillion in Africa. It built 6,200 kilometers of railways, including the continent's longest railway line connecting Ethiopia and Djibouti. Beijing has also built the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa. What does China get in return? A lot. Geopolitical influence to start with. Beijing is selling its culture, its currency. In Guinea-Bissau, exit signs are written in Mandarin. China has established at least 50 Confucius institutes across 33 countries. Several African countries use Chinese currency. China also gets a strategic overseas base. In 2017, China built its first overseas base at the Horn of Africa, Djibouti to be specific. Djibouti connects the Mediterranean Sea to the Indian Ocean via the Suez Canal. The base has the capacity to accommodate 10,000 troops. China also gets a market to dump its goods. China is Africa's largest trading partner. Chinese trade has increased 40-fold in the last 2 decades. At least 10,000 Chinese firms operate in Africa. This is according to a McKinsey study. Africa has resources and China has access. Did you know that a third of China's investments in Africa are in the mining sector? And finally, it gets to debt trap Africa. But here's the thing. China is not the only country investing in this continent. It's not even the biggest. The United States is Africa's largest investor. It accounts for $54 billion of FDI stock. There are 600 American companies operating in South Africa alone. And this, even after the US president called Africa this. For the longest time, Africa was nothing but a war zone for Washington. It has over 7,000 troops deployed in the continent. They're spread across some 13 African countries, including Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya, Libya, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, South Sudan, Somalia, and Tunisia. For the US, Africa was a continent for counter-terrorism operations. What happened then? Why is the US suddenly interested in Africa? The answer is this. For the US, Africa is now a new front to take on China, and Washington is now fighting it out for power and influence. An article on the US State Department website reads, and I quote, Africa is the continent of the future. Thus, we need to make the most of its potential. By 2050, its population will more than double to 2.2 billion people, with over 60% under the age of 25. Where is Africa's interest in all of this? Also, what about India? What role does India play in this continent? New Delhi's ties with Africa date back to the time of Mahatma Gandhi. India was part of the Bandung Project of 1955. New Delhi supported Africa's anti-colonial struggles. It supported the liberalization movements in Ghana, Algeria, Tunisia, Morocco, Angola, Mozambique, Guinea-Bissau. India also raised the issue of racism in South Africa. It will be unfair to say, though, that India's newfound interest in Africa has nothing to do with China. In 2018, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi toured key African states just ahead of Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit. In 2018, India decided to open 18 new embassies in Africa. India has defense partnerships with Zambia, Nigeria, Ghana, Ethiopia, Botswana, Uganda, Mozambique, and Namibia. New Delhi is currently training African military. Indian company Airtel is a dominant telecom firm in Africa. New Delhi is offering 50,000 scholarships to African students. Despite everything, India is far behind China in the race for Africa. China's Belt and Road Initiative has sealed its hold on Africa. If in the 1900s Africa was colonized with force, in 2020 it is being trapped by loans. China accounts for 14% of sub-Saharan debt. In Kenya, the volume of Chinese loans is 6 times that of France, which is the country's second largest creditor. And Sri Lanka can tell you what happens when Chinese loans are not repaid. China is looking to capture Africa. It has a strong diaspora. It is spending big money. It is selling its movies, culture, and currency. China extracts raw materials. It manufactures products with them and sells them back to this continent. Does this remind you of something? What did the British do in India? In the 19th century, the rivalry between Britain and France fueled Africa's colonization. In the 21st century, the trade war between the United States and China is hastening the same. Just like the 19th century, there are numerous countries in the scramble for Africa. And just like the 19th century...
So I'm trying to pause that right now. So you see that, man. That's crazy, man. That's crazy how you got these different resources in your land. I'm trying to remove that. Stop the screen. You got different resources that's right underneath your feet. So they take them, mine them out, and then next thing you know, I'm sorry, I had to get the other screen back up. Take them, mine them out, and then send them back to you. It ain't funny, man, but I'm like, man, I really pray and hope that they get wisdom and those different countries come together and, have a united front against people coming in. And all that glitters ain't gold. All Trojan horses is not for you. And it's also a surge of us going back to Africa. You know what I mean? A lot of African American people, so-called African Americans, going back to the continent. And I personally don't want to relive what's going on over here because their presence will be so strong and controlling the resources, and you know what I mean. But that whole thing to make one nation cripple, or one nation keeping one nation at an infantile state so they can always trust in another nation is crazy. And the Most High set it up where on this land, everybody got a certain amount of resources, right? You might not have the same thing as somebody else, like a river might not go through your town, or you might not be next to a lake or ocean, but you might be next to a mountain that has something that's very, very valuable. And that's what the whole trade commodity was supposed to be set up. Well, like, man, hey, man, you got some bananas. Hey, I got gold. Hey, I got some salt. I got different things like that. It was supposed to happen like that. But because of the fall of man, you see what happened. It's like what's mine is mine, what's yours is mine. You know what I mean? And so a lot of times, and I always look at too, I'm going to stop that banner. A lot of times when we see wars and rumors of wars and, these different conflicts, it be over territory. It be territorial spirits, right? You know what I mean? How even in our neighborhoods or whatever, or Southside Chicago, they fighting over blocks and territory and dominance. They do that on a global scale, right? They fighting over continents. They fighting over, you know what I mean? To stay on top. You feel what I'm saying? So they do that, or put a centralized bank in there. Once you get in charge of the finances, that look what be the next thing they put in there? Hospital. That seemed pretty decent. Then they got the school. We got to put a school in there because we got to educate you with our values, right? We got to get you prepared to work. And that's one thing I can't even say going to Vincennes and Indiana State, great time, great education. But they prepared us. I was in School of Business, but they prepared us, and anybody else who went to school with me know, they prepared us to pretty much be employees. Like a lot of stuff we weren't taught, we weren't learned, we didn't learn. You know what I'm saying? They prepared us to be marketable, good employees to work for somebody else. They didn't tell us all of the business secrets and the different things on and how to be good in business. Another thing too, the whole plan that's set up with this debt. We have a debt society. What's going on? So you all like say when you come out of school, they give you all these credit cards. You get all these school loans, and then if you don't get no school loan, let's say if you get a full ride or academic scholarship, when you get out, you got to get a car, you got to get a house, you got to get these things. So some kind of way you're going to be in debt. The debt system is set up. And so what's happening even on this continent, and it's like, okay, well, man, you got the resources, but we own the resources. We loan you to mine it out, but we're going to charge you compound interest, and you'll always be subject to us, right? And that is a terrible, terrible thing, man. So I want to finish sharing this. So here's the UA, the African Union, right? These are different representatives from different continents, different countries throughout the continent, right? So let me go back a little bit because we're almost done, guys. I just think that is very, very interesting. Right here, AFRICOM is a U.S. African command. Since the attacks on 9/11, U.S. activities in Africa have been shaped in the so-called war on terror. That's their spiel. They like to say, oh, we got the war on terror. We finna go over there and have the war on terror. So it's real weird, you know what I mean, how Russia sell these little regimes guns, then they go over there and fight the war on terror. It's a big game, guys. Even the U.S. humanitarian aid to Africa has been linked to this agenda, right? So if I'm starving, I'm hungry, you come in with some beans, some rice, be my friend. You know, I look at that as an olive branch, but it's always an underlying and hidden agenda. That's what I'm starting to find out and figure out. It's always an underlying hidden agenda, you know, and we need to just be looking for true camaraderie, right? We're looking for true, but we live in a fallen world. You're not gonna get that except from Yahusha. Yahusha is the only camaraderie. He said, I've known thee from that mother's womb, right? You're formed in my image and my likeness. If I be for you, who can be against you, right? So he's the only one that's for us. Now, we might have a few little people here and there, but overall, he has no hidden agenda like these other nations. AFRICOM, the U.S. African Command. Okay, nevertheless, African countries have been reluctant to host AFRICOM as they are deeply suspicious. Look at this. Suspicious of its agenda and feel it could undermine their sovereignty. You think, right? For this reason, AFRICOM is based in Germany and not on the continent. So this AFRICOM right here, they got the little, logo and everything. They based in Germany, so they were kind of leery about the U.S. You know what I mean? Militarism and the war on terror, the war on drugs, the war on poverty, the war on this, the war on that, war-minded, love war. Economic and strategy goals are driving a new militarization in Africa and growing talk of the war on terror across the continent. And as in the Middle East, promoting democracy. This whole thing is we're trying to go in and promote democracy. In my opinion, guys, that is just another word for colonization. We're going in because, a lot of times these different countries, these third world countries are depleted because of the resources, not just Africa, but all over. So when you come in to help out and bring democracy and build these different structures, it comes with a price, right? That's why I tell y'all, man, it ain't no free money. We feeling good about this STEMI, but it's something that comes with that. But that's not this show, all right? It has provided useful pretext for military intervention, right? Military intervention. We're promoting democracy and bring military intervention, all right? The lack of respect, bad diplomacy. 45, he out of office. I mean, I know y'all think, it's all good now because he gone. He got kicked out. Well, I ain't gonna tell why he got kicked out. But during his election campaign, after assuming office, 45 made several controversial remarks about Africa that were described by Africans as, and many as insulting and racist. Okay, it said January of this year, but this is the old report, not January of this year. It claimed that 45 had referred to Africans as asshole countries, and everybody remember that. So you can't do, that's bad business. That's bad diplomacy, right? And, you go and you say different things to North Korea and Mexico and all these different, you know what I'm saying? That's bad diplomacy, right? And so, but you know what? I can respect them, though, in this sense. Overt operations tell you how it is. I don't like you, period, point blank, right? No blacks allowed in this. Now in the South, it was an overt South, in the before during segregation. Hey man, you can't come up in here. At least but don't be smiling in my face, covert, sneaky, Trojan horse. Oh man, I got an ally right here, and then clown me. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather you come tell me, hey man, y'all this, that, and the other. Now I know not to deal with you or how to deal with you. Feel me? So I kind of respect that. Like, all right. But then he was messing up. He was too real, I should say, in certain areas. And I'm not promoting left or right or 45 or Uncle Joe or none of that. I'm just saying he'll go shoot off the hip. And they like, bro, they tried their best to groom him. You know what I'm saying? Because he wasn't Democrat or Republican or Christian. They just threw him in there. Feel me? And they just thought he was a savior. Racism increased, man. It was just crazy, right? It showed the true colors of this country. Real crazy, right? All right. Africa is a market for Russia. Russia in there too. Russia is another key player in Africa, right? They met with Zimbabwe, Angola, Mozambique, met in Ethiopia, met with the AU committee in Addis Ababa, right? All the other countries that the Russian diplomat visited were Southern African countries that have huge natural resources like oil, uranium, copper, coal, gold, and cobalt. Uranium, I think what that video said, 35%, and cobalt. Them is two precious resources that the world covers after. That uranium and that cobalt, they want to get a hold of that, along with all the rest of them. This shows that Russia's main priority in Africa is not reviving its Soviet-era prestige and influence, but extracting of natural resources. But you know what? You look, you got years and years of just, like I said, beat down, and they come and say, hey, man, I'm going to come and help you out. You know, if you're not used to the games, you'll be like, man, look. Even if you are used to the games, you're kind of like, man, look, we gotta get started. We gotta get out of this hole. You know, we gotta do better than what's going on, right? But Russia is also invested in security and military projects in Africa. As the second largest arms exporter in the world after the U.S., it sells billions of dollars of weapons annually across the continent. So Russia supply a lot of those different militia bands with AR-15s and M16s and all that. They supply weapons or whatever. So it'd be hard to take over them little regimes and stuff. It's crazy. How to respond to the new scramble. This is it. How they should respond to the new scramble. Today, these three superpowers may be competing for influence in Africa, but the level of exploitation and cruelty caused by the rival does not amount to the atrocities committed during the original scramble, right? They're not going in there cutting off arms, just cutting off hands. Like I said, King Leopold went to the Congo. He wanted them to get the rubber out of the tree. They was like, no, bam, cut their hands off. It's crazy. The AU, the African Union, should develop a coherent, unified, and comprehensive strategy to deal with the three superpowers. Competition over its natural resources and engage all three superpowers to cooperate with Africa instead of exploiting it. So they need to come together and come to the table and say, hey, man, you know, this are resources. You feel what I'm saying? What does it say? Shout out to Dee. She says, Africa is the richest continent on the planet. That's why they won't leave Africa. Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And but what is the pictures that they always show? The baby with flies on their face. But they ain't showed them in the wild. But I remember coming up in the 80s and 90s. Man, you'd be like, man, for the price of a cup of coffee, you can feed these people. I'm like, man, they got it bad over there. You know, we're gonna send a bag of rice and all of that stuff over there. But literally, they can pay for their own stuff. They can pay for their own stuff by what's in their mountains and what's underneath their feet. But they don't have the tools to mine it out or dig it out or extract it. Okay. Brother Lewis said the same thing happened in Haiti. Absolutely. Also, too, in Haiti, they had a revolt. They came up and they revolted against the French people, and the French people, they got like reparations for losing the war. How do you get reparations for losing the war? The war. And they just not finished paying them off, or they paying. That's why they so war torn and stuff. They said, oh, because of the voodoo and the hoodoo. Yeah, that too. But it's a lot of voodoo and warlock witchcraft going on right here in America that they don't want to talk about. Hollywood and the music industry and Babylon itself and the Luciferic deals going on at Washington, D.C. They don't talk about that. But and I'm not coming to the aid of people who do these different practices, you know, because we represent the Most High. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, your son, Yeshua. You know, we understand that, but don't say it's war torn and ravaged because they practicing voodoo over there. Nah, y'all came through there and y'all did what y'all did. That's why it's war torn. You know what I'm saying? Hit them with the Heart Project, and one side of the island get hit with a earthquake, and the other side don't. But I digress. It's a whole other different story. All right, how to respond? Most importantly, African masses, civil societies youth and women groups should play a leading role in Africans' relations with the world. The era of gatekeepers must end. So the era of a few greedy gatekeepers that they getting different things, but they're not looking out for the continent. They're not looking out for the country. They're not looking out for the people. The day of that gatekeeper must end on every level. On every level. Even over here, you know what I'm saying? We got these senators. We got these different things. Not all of them is bad. We got these House representatives. We got these state officials, right? That's only looking out for themselves. We got these preachers. Some of these preachers only looking out for themselves, right? They're not looking out for the sheep. And we can't be on that. We got to be on a whole nother different level. So it said the era of the gatekeeper must end. So it's basically saying the youth, the women, the children, everybody got to play a role in this because they're more bought in because they got more to lose when they know what's going on, right? There may be a new Scramble for Africa underway, but this time Africans can and should be the ones benefiting from the superpowers' interests in their country, right? U.S., Russia, and China, and many other foreign powers should only be allowed to operate in Africa as long as their actions are beneficial for the continent, right? As long as it's beneficial for the continent. You feel what I'm saying? And so it's time out for and that's why they always be having these military police, all these military things. You know, a few people, greedy people at the top, because they know if the masses found out, it'd be mass hysteria, right? Like if we really knew what was going on behind the scenes in this country, we'd be spazzing. But you know, we got the March Madness going on, and baseball season started, and you know, Brooklyn Nets might beat LeBron and little Stimmy, you know, to calm you down. But they tell you what's really going on, man, we'll be spazzing and tearing this place up and be going crazy if we really knew what was going on behind the scenes. But these are pacifiers, right? The dangling carrots, what I call them, right? To keep you at bay. And that's why they have a strong military presence, because they know they're outnumbered. So that's why, hey, man, you know, these mass shootings is terrible. We need to take y'all guns. But look, this country and many other countries were taken and captured because of military might and force, right? The sword, right? So they ain't about to give up their gun. They scared. I asked Most High one. I said, why do these people act like this, man? And he was basically, I ain't say man to the Most High, but I'm just like, why do people act like this? And he was basically sharing me because of fear of not being on top, fear of losing, fear. It's a fear. And even some of the evangelicals is fearful. And it's like, man, look, if you really are part of the team, if you really quote Hashem, it said his perfect love cast out fear. You ain't got nothing to fear, right? So they rule with an iron fist. They rule out of fear. You feel what I'm saying? I just like, well, man, if you got to rule out of fear, you're doing something wrong. And so the enemy come to a lot of these high families, aides. They already made a covenant with Hasatan, right? They already made a covenant with Hasatan. So just like how he came to Yahusha, he was fasting for 40 days and 40 nights in Luke 4. Then he was hungry, right? Because he was in the natural body. You know, I'm hungry, man. 40 days, 40 nights, chilling out, you know. And then the enemy came to him. You know, if you're the son of the Most High, turn this stone into bread, right? And then Yahushua did what? He battled him in combat. It is written, man shall not live by bread alone. If you're the son of the Most High, you say, you see all of these kingdoms, they are given to me, right? For a season. And I can give them to whoever I want to. I can promote you. I can give you a blessing, but you got to bow down and worship me. You got to compromise. He said, man, you should worship the Lord your God only. Then he said, oh, okay, this man religious. I'm paraphrasing it. So he going to go to the word and twist it a little bit and say, jump off this mountain, because it is written, he will give his angels charge over thee that you won't dash your foot against the stone. Then he said, it is written, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God, Yahweh. Right? And so then he said, and the enemy left him for a season. So he led by example and showed us how to do it. But if not, you would take these dangling carrots, the lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, pride of life, with no problem. That's what he tried to do. He come to John 10:10 and say, how Satan come to steal, kill, and destroy. And Yahushua said, I come that you may have life and that more abundantly. Feel me? So we got to wear this life like a loose garment. We're gonna enjoy things. Don't get me wrong. Feel me? You know, they shoot me some money. We gonna have some fun, but we're not gonna let it consume us. Matter of fact, you owe us more than that with the reparations, but that's all right. Vengeance is mine, said Yahya Shai. So he gonna take care of that. I ain't tripping off of that. You feel what I'm saying? And the audacity and the nerve to think you just gonna plunder, beat up, take up, just do all this stuff, and then you just fly into the clouds. You know, you had your best life, and then you just fly away into the cloud. That's why they want to fly away so bad to Mars and get raptured up out of here. And all. But I digress. You want to fly away at you. You done tore the planet up. Now you want to fly away, right? Underground cities. You know what I'm saying? Man, you can't get away from the Most High. But anyway, I digress. Okay, that's the African Union. I hope they, you know. So this is when close. I'm gonna say this, and then we're gonna pray. The borrower is a slave to the lender, means that you are in debt to someone. That when you are in debt to someone, they basically own you. You have to do what they want because they own you. Because you owe them. I'm sorry. Until you pay them off, you are a slave to them. Is what they are saying. And Berean Study Bible, Proverbs 22:7. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Right? And so that's pretty much it, man. It's a perpetual being a slave to the lender, right? We at the lender's mercy. We always owe the lender something. That's why the whole system is set up in debt. That's why the whole system is set up in credit score and all that. You got to pay so much debt down and get your credit score. And I remember going to one debt class, and I'll never forget this. It might have been a couple of years ago. They said if you owe $8,000 and you get $8,000, don't pay it all off, because that's not good for your credit score. I'm like, that don't make no sense. If I'm $8,000 in debt, in some kind of way, I get a hold of $8,000, and why wouldn't I want to take that 8 G's and pay it off, and my credit score should shoot up? They say pay a little bit off, you know, because there's interest involved. It's a game. It's always, you got to pay somebody. You got to always pay somebody. You know what I mean? And even the medical field, man, they take over. I don't tell my stuff, man. They take over 200. Over. I'm just gonna say they take over 200 a check. Not a month. A check. I ain't gonna tell you all my business. So I'm like, whoa. And then when you go to the doctor's office, we're gonna pray and get out of here. And you gotta pay a copay. No, take it out of them 200s a month you've been taking, 200s a check you've been taking. So that's over 400. I said over 200, so that's over 400 a month. Yeah. Take it out of that. Why I gotta pay a copay? We get bills in the mail. You owe $6,000 here. You owe $2,000 there. Man, look. Funnel the money, even if you funnel $50 of that money. Funnel the money that you're taking out of my medical and pay that off. I don't even want to see it. You just take 50 from it or 100 from it, from that stash you take it, and pay it off. They don't want to do that because it's about lust of the flesh, lust of the eye, pride of life, right? And there are some bad things that's going on. You know what I mean? When people trying to build their own individual kingdoms, then that's when they have problems, when they try to build their own individual kingdom, right? So we gotta be keeping our eyes focused on the Most High, man. We can't get caught up in this place, man. This place crazy, man. You know, and so that's why they be like, man, why you ain't take the jab? Why you being irresponsible? Why you don't want to take the jab? First of all, when they come up with a serum, vax, it be on 5 years, 10 years, and study it and see what's going on and the side effects. Man, there's so many side effects going on with it. You want to rush and get it, man. Look, I know how you operate. I know who you are. People die, spirits don't, and their assignments never change. People die, spirits don't, and their assignments never change. For real. So we just got to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove out here, man. We ain't no paranoid. You know, they're gonna turn the pressure cooker up a little bit. They're gonna be like, they're gonna do some force stuff because they don't do they first they want to see where everybody at. You know what I mean? You know, if everybody take this jab, we can get back to normal. No, man, it ain't getting back to no normal. We're going to a global reset. This stuff I'm doing right here, it's gonna be taxing. These little shows and stuff, man, they're gonna be calling that hate speech and censorship. They're gonna censor this kind of stuff. They finna go on a whole other different level. And you know what I'm saying? So we got to be in tune. And I'm not preaching fear. I'm just telling y'all what I know. See what I'm saying? Our biggest thing should be, oh man, the doors of the church is back open. And that's cool. It's safe for saying not the assembly, but man, we ain't learned nothing out of this year. We got to learn something. Man, we got to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. And walk circumspectly, man, because it's crazy out here, man. You know, wear like a loose garment, like a tent. When you break down the tent, you can set it up somewhere else. Feel me? So I'm going to close out in prayer, man. Elephant Man Podcast Network. Subscribe, like, share. If this blessed you or some information on here blessed you, share it with somebody else. Share it with somebody else. Again, if you haven't seen the first part, I talk about the first Scramble for Africa. I did that yesterday. Also, dangling carrot, the cost of true money. What's the stimmy going to cost in the long run? It's good right now, but it's going to cost something. They ain't giving away no free money. We $27 trillion in debt. Don't let me pull that camp. Don't let me pull that. You know what? I'm going to go and do it. I'm going to go and do it. I'll pull up this clock. I'll pull up this clock for you. Oh, don't log off. We'll be logging off. They'll be getting mad, sad, like, that brother, I gotta log off. All right. Now I'm about to go ahead and share this. Share the screen. I'm gonna put you on game real quick. Ba, ba, ba. You see that? The USDebtClock.org. What does that say? U.S. national debt, 28 trillion. Everywhere where it's red is where we're in debt. Okay? 28 trillion. And it's still going. I looked at this clock last year, it was 26. Now it's at 28. Federal Reserve spending 6 trillion. Right? The money that's coming in, 3 trillion. Total state revenue, 2 trillion. Right? But you put 3 plus 2, that's 5. Subtract that from 8, you're still $23 trillion in debt. I'm gonna put y'all on game. Before they might take my page down, whatever. All right. So, and this goes to all of the different. So, the whole thing about giving out free money so we can get out of debt and all that good stuff, man. Look, they're trying to crash the dollar. I'm gonna tell all this stuff tonight, man. Why not? Oh, Brother Rowan, shalom, brother. Shalom. Why crash the dollar and get a global reset? And in order to be a part of this new system, new world order, or this new system, you got to have your COVID, certificate of vaccine ID, your card. What? You can check that US. Oh yeah, check that US debt clock yourself. Right. It's right. It's right. Bam. USDebtClock.org. 28 trillion and counting. Feel me? They got it out there, man. So we passed the stimulus for 5 trillion. That's good. And I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to give me some food because you owe me anyway. I'm gonna do what I gotta do. I say that's a conditioning you. So when they crash a dollar, then they say, "Hey, you want to still be a part? You like that? You like that? Yeah." It's more where that came from. But you got to be my servant. But I tell you, servant is a slave to the lender. Oh, I tell you, this is elephant man, grown man conversations dealing with elephants in the room, right? It ain't no, well, man, I'm gonna lose members. I'm gonna lose offering. I'm gonna lose my 501c3. I ain't gonna lose none of that. That's the reason why it's set up the way it's set up. Because I ain't gotta suppress and pass information. Shh, be quiet. Don't tell who the people is. Deuteronomy 28. Because if you tell who the people is, we're gonna have to start doing better by them. And the so-called survivors, the 6 million survivors, they getting bread from the United States. Over 24 million, 24 trillion, 24 billion or some 24 something. They getting bread for surviving that. And they tell us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. They tell true Israel, man, look, man, you been a welfare recipient looking for a handout. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I was like, all right, that's cool. That's a smoking gun right there. That's a smoking gun right there. You tell the Russian converts, man, we so sorry that happened to you. And it was bad. I ain't being insensitive. It was bad. I've seen the pictures. Right? I seen it. I was like, dang, they do their own like that? Woo! So they ain't got no problem hanging you from a tree, shooting you in the back, and you don't get your day in court. I know that's rough, man. I'm sorry, man. I might do a nice show next time because, to balance it out so I don't scare people. Anyway, man, I hope you had a good time. I want you to share and be blessed. Oh, what'd they say? Diddy, it's not free. Digital currency, global reset, printing money out of thin air. Yes, that printing money out of thin air. Federal Reserve, you read the creature from Jecoliah. The Federal Reserve is not federal, and there is no reserve, meaning there's no dollar backing it. It's a promissory note saying, I promise that this money is worth something. I promise that this note is worth what it said it say. I promise you. You can use it to buy what you need to buy. I promise you it's good, right? The thing is, even right now, another thing that's keeping us afloat is the petrodollar, because in order for people to trade on a global scale, they gotta put it in dollar. But right now, Russia and China and all of them, they're trying to get away from the petrodollar. That's another reason why they're running over there to Africa, because Africa got all that oil. Man, we get our own oil. We ain't gotta be under the petrodollar. That's another thing. Anything can crash you. A war, destroying, inflating the dollar. There's so many different things that can happen. So we got to be wise as serpent, harmless as dove, and stay prayed up and work together. That's one thing I don't like. We don't work together. I got my stimmy, he got his stimmy, she got her stimmy, they got their stimmy. We all going to buy Jordans and the newest iPhone and getting flued out. Man, look. Let me tell you something. Man, you get 10 families. They don't like this group economics. You get 10 families to put up 2 G's, 3 G's, 4 G's a piece, come together, buy something, let it make residual income, and everybody get a share. That's all they do on Shark Tank. It's easy lifting when more people are involved with it. It's easy lifting, right? If Mr. Wonderful got to come out, pay $100,000, okay, he got it. But if Barbara come in and say, well, I'm going to help, she only got to put up $50,000, he only got to put up $50,000, then they split it. Feel me? That's group economics. They showing us how to do that on Shark Tank. Oh, man, my brother. CME Solele, what's going on, brother? Yeah. I hope you enjoy your family too, man. Yeah, man, I appreciate that. Yeah, man. If you ain't catch the beginning half of this, yeah, just play back, man. 20s. Sometimes in that area, they took out the gold and the silver. You are right on the money, Rohan. You are right. It's a dude Man, we're gonna get to a whole other different show. I don't want to do that. I want to do that. But they said the dude over here from the Rothschild Bank of England, Adam Schiff. That was one of the 4 things he was coming to do: get control of the banks, get control of the media. I don't want to get into that because that's gonna take me to a whole other show, and folk gonna be like, "What are he talking about?" So, but you're right. They did that, right? And they changed it over. They had that meeting. Creatures from Jekyll Island. It's an island outside of Georgia called Jekyll Island, and they had Rockefeller there. They had Warburg there. They had some real deal known people. The other people didn't know the other people was coming, so they was there for this meeting for a week. They be having these secret meetings, bro. Like, look, we come together, and they weren't all sitting around that table. They didn't all like each other, but they came together and said, "Look, we can start this Federal Reserve Bank. We can ABCXYZ, and the rest is history." They don't get audited. You can't chin check them. You can't do none of that. They call the shots, and the more the banks they put in different countries, then they can have control. And then okay, like North Korea, like, no, we ain't putting no centralized bank in here. Oh, Korea is a terrorist. Oh, we ain't putting no centralized bank over here. All them countries that don't put them central banks in their junk, them the ones who be like, I think Cuba too got into it. But you know what? We're gonna cut you off, right? If you don't want to be a part of our stuff, we're gonna cut you off. And I seen some pictures of Cuba, man. They got some stuff like they never advanced. They got old cars from the 40s and 50s. I'm like, dang, they ain't got a lot of new stuff down there. And then the food banks, you know what I'm saying? Potatoes and eggs. I'm just like, what? Only thing keeping them afloat is tourism. Real facts. Tourism. So, man, I don't want to get into that. Yeah, that's a heavy conversation. I'm just gonna give our ice cream cones on the next one, because you got to break it up. You can't, scare the people away. Elephant Man Podcast Network, Grown Man Conversations, Dylan Evans in the room. Subscribe, like, share, and let everybody know what's going on. One. Perfect.